This is Joe Pearson, the project planner for this application. This is a presentation for the Freeway Adjacent Digital Display Billboards Ordinance Project filed by the City of Oxnard. The proposed project includes a request for amendments to Article 9 advertising signs of the Oxnard City Code to permit freeway adjacent digital display billboards on parcels designated as commercial, industrial, or public facilities within 400 feet of U.S. Highway 101 within the city of Oxnard. The map shown here shows a general outline of where signs could be permitted under this ordinance. Starting with some background, on June 18, 2019, the City Council approved and authorized the mayor to execute an inclusive negotiation agreements with Clear Channel Outdoor LLC and another with Outfront Foster Interstate for potential digital billboard sites. Under the terms of the ENA, both companies were given exclusive rights to negotiate with the city for an initial 6-month period and 2 additional 6-month periods if the projects were being diligently pursued by the parties. On November 17, 2020, Council amended the ENA to allow for an additional 6 months, as well as provided the city manager authority to extend the ENAs for 2 additional 6-month terms, again, if the projects were being diligently pursued by the parties. After some progress on the entitlements, on June 7th, 2022, again, the City Council determined that significant enough progress had been made to amend the ENAs to grant another 6-month period, as well as, again, provide the city manager with authority to extend the ENAs for an additional 2 6-month terms, again, if the projects were being diligently pursued by the parties. To allow for these and other possible signs in the future, the city is proceeding with the proposed project. The city currently allows for billboards in the form of off-site advertising signs throughout the city in general commercial manufacturing, limited manufacturing, light manufacturing, and heavy manufacturing zones pursuant to the Oxnard City Code. Under the proposed ordinance, the freeway adjacent digital display billboards would be regulated separately from the off-site advertising signs. The allowance of freeway adjacent digital display billboards is much more limited, as they are only allowed within 400 feet of U.S. Highway 101 and only on city-owned property. Similarly to the off-site advertising signs, the signs would only be allowed within commercially zoned property. In addition to the existing off-site advertising signs, the city has previously allowed 2 digital display signs, one at the collection and one at the Oxnard Auto Center. These signs are generally limited to the display of businesses located within the collection or the Oxnard Auto Center. They were both permitted under their respective specific plans, therefore no additional signage would be allowed without changes to those specific plans. Shown here are images of both these signs and other billboards currently along the highway corridor. These signs are currently located on both private and public county-owned property within the city of Oxnard. The proposed ordinance has a few key requirements, beginning with each sign would be required to obtain a special use permit and a development agreement from the city, which would require approval by both the Planning Commission and City Council. The specific limitations of the freeway adjacent digital display billboards include the freeway adjacent digital display billboards may only be erected on City of Oxnard owned property or right of way in any non-residential zone located within 400 feet of the freeway. And no more than 5 total would be allowed in the city. No freeway adjacent billboard may be placed at a distance of less than 100 feet from the property line of any residentially zoned parcel. The maximum height of any freeway adjacent display billboard shall not exceed 55 feet as measured from the pavement level of US Highway 101 to the bottom of digital display billboard. And this is to ensure that there's a consistent standard applied as it is viewed from the freeway. The maximum size of each freeway adjacent display billboard face display area shall be 14 feet in height and 48 feet in width, and each billboard is required to be separated from every other billboard by at least 2,000 feet. And this would apply to the freeway adjacent digital display billboards only. Also, all freeway adjacent digital display billboards shall either be double faced or include a covered back or facings. Each freeway adjacent digital display billboard must be oriented primarily for viewing from the adjacent freeway. All freeway adjacent digital display billboards will not exceed 0.3 foot candles over ambient levels at a distance of 250 feet in any direction. Also, all freeway adjacent display billboards shall comply with all applicable laws and regulations concerning brightness, and this includes, without limitation, the California Building Professions Code, as well as the California Vehicle Code. And then also, the freeway adjacent display billboard may show a series of still images, each displayed for at least 8 seconds. The still images may not move or present the appearance of motion and may not use flashing or blinking lights or any other means not providing consistent illumination. Transitions and blank screen time between one still image and the next may not exceed 1 second. And then lastly, the owner of the freeway adjacent digital display billboard must comply with all applicable federal, state, and local laws when constructing, operating, improving, maintaining, repairing, and removing the freeway adjacent digital display billboards. And in approving a development agreement for any freeway adjacent digital display billboard, the City Council must find that the development agreement will confer substantial public benefit to the city and to the general public. Consistency with the 2030 General Plan is defined by the relationship between the 2030 General Plan policies and the proposed project. Some of the key applicable policies are shown here. The proposed project does not conflict with the General Plan land use goals and policies. The ordinance would only allow the proposed signs within the US Highway 101 corridor, which is generally characterized by urban or high-density development, as well as other large-scale signage, such as the existing Auto Center sign, the collection sign, and the Esplanade signs. And then in addition to these commercial signs, there are numerous larger freeway signs along the corridor as well. The allowance of these new sign types would be consistent with the overall nature of the corridor. Where signage would abut existing development, mitigation has been incorporated. In particular, lighting mitigation, which would mitigate impacts on existing development. These also include the separation requirements from residential uses and limitations on illumination levels. With the implementation of these measures, we can anticipate that future potential conflicts would be mitigated. Also, in addition to these existing mitigation measures, all future projects would require a site-specific analysis, including a site-specific CEQA analysis, which would identify any other additionally required mitigations related to a specific site. As a result, the proposed project has been determined to be consistent with the general plan, as all future projects would be subject to compliance with the general plan policies. The project's consistency review with general plan policies is further detailed in the staff report. An environmental consultant, under the supervision of Planning Division staff, prepared a ISMND which evaluated potential environmental impacts of the proposed project. The ISMND was prepared pursuant to the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. The city prepared the MND, which was released for a 30-day review period. The city did receive 4 comment letters on this draft MND. Comments and responses to each of these comments have been provided in the final ISMND. Additionally, some changes were made to the draft MND for the final MND to address some of the comments provided. The final ISMND includes a mitigation monitoring and reporting program, which details the process to implement required mitigation measures. After implementation of the conditions and mitigation measures, all potentially significant impacts would be reduced to less than significant. The final ISMND identified the following: that the project would result in potentially significant impacts associated with aesthetics due to lighting, air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, and tribal and cultural resources, as well as noise. Mitigation measures have been required to reduce each of these potentially significant impacts to less than significant. Compliance with state law and general plan goals and policies and implementation of the required mitigation measures within the draft MND would reduce potentially significant impacts. These measures include regulating light trespass, including a operating mechanism for electronic billboard malfunctions or failures, conducting third-party tests for the installed electronic billboard, demonstrating that the electronic billboard would not exceed the Ventura County Air Pollution Control District thresholds of significance, conducting a pre-construction survey for active bird nests, and conducting protocol-focused surveys for least bells vario, and monitoring and collecting, if necessary, any discovered historical, archaeological, paleontological, and tribal cultural resources. Again, after the implementation of the required mitigation measures, which would apply to all future electronic billboards, the potentially significant impacts would be reduced to less than significant, and no remaining significant impacts would occur. The project was discussed at the December 20th, 2021 community workshop when two proposed digital display billboards were presented to the River Park neighborhood. At that meeting, approximately 2,000 notices were mailed. The meeting was held online. Approximately 8 members of the community attended the meeting, and 2 people spoke on the items. The video from the online workshop has been posted on the city's website for members of the public to view. The primary concerns identified at the community workshop were related to general allowance of electronic billboards as well as lighting impacts. Again, future signs developed under this ordinance would be subject to the city's community workshop requirements as applicable. Also, along with the public review for the M&D, a notice was posted in the newspaper and sent to state and local agencies as well as other interested parties. As previously noted, comments from the public review period have been included and responded to in the response to comments. Based on information provided in this presentation and the associated staff report and attachments, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council adopt a mitigated negative declaration, MND 2201, and adopt a resolution recommending that City Council approve Planning and Zoning Permit 258006 for the approval of the proposed ordinance amendment.